Well, awesome. Well, hey everyone, my name is Justin, and I get to work on the PowerChurch and Empower team here. And I know life is definitely full in ministry, so the fact that you're giving up an hour of your time to hang out with us really means a lot. The goal of this hour is clarity and not complexity. We're not trying to add more to your plate, but we're trying to help um, bring priority to what it is. Specifically, that's building a clear and sustainable church communication system. In my former life, before coming to Power Church, I was a communications and media director at a bunch of different churches around the country. So I've made most of the mistakes that you can make here. So this is lived experience that I'm trying to help build. So yeah, but it's not about doing more. It's about building something on purpose. So we're going to talk about how to build that system for your church today. Yeah. Just checking. Can everybody see the PowerPoint and my face? Want to make sure we're getting awesome. I see a thumbs up. Awesome. I'll take it. But yeah, the whole goal of today is just focusing on your mission deserves a system. That's a fancy way to just say what you're doing as a church deserves to have a system built around it to support it. So the most churches, we care deeply about our mission, but very few intentionally build a communication system that actually supports it. And when that happens, or doesn't, things start to drift. So a lot of what you see is inherited patterns, which is just a fancy way to saying that things change and morph over time. So whether you've created your own communication strategy, have it written down at one point, you put in the work, if that's not cared for over the years after it's created, then it can shift. It could start to drift just a little bit. And we can move from that proactive strategy to a reactive one. So a request comes in, an announcement, a new email list, another text group over time. It just becomes normal, like that new normal that you're shifting to slowly. But normal doesn't mean intentional. And so, yeah, we get into a place to where we react to things, to where we just keep adding to them without a general purpose of why we did that. And then what seems to be good is that we manage them. We manage the patterns that we've inherited instead of leading them. So we're doing the best with what we currently have, and things just typically feel busy. And that reactive communication pattern is okay. Here's a fun story that I'm sure has never happened to anyone here. But imagine you're walking to the pulpit. You've got your message and sermon in your head, all the announcements you're supposed to do, and then someone walks up to you and says, "Hey, can we get this in the announcements today?" And of course it's important. Everything's important. And now you're making a communication decision in the hallway 5 minutes before service. That is not a communication system. That is survival. No one meant for it to be chaotic. It just kind of accumulated over time. So it's the Sunday morning request, the urgency of every event, because it's the ministry leader's job to advocate for the events and things that they want. And of course, they're excited about it, and we want to give those places space. But then you get into a situation where there is a lot of competing emails. I know I have 3 kids, and we serve in different departments. So there's times where we've got like 6 emails in every 2 days, it feels like. And what happens is people stop opening them. It's that attention fatigue that we all deal with as ministry leaders. But yeah, clarity doesn't drift all at once. So these things don't happen all at once. It happens slowly over time. So 2 big questions to ask here. So where are the actual communication decisions being made in your church? Do you have a process that's defined and written down that anyone taking over for you or any volunteers to help lighten the load would be able to jump in and join, or any new staff that you have onto the church? There's some 2 questions to think through. It's kind of your homework. So we've got instead of that reactive. The goal is to be intentional. So clarity doesn't happen accidentally. It requires design. You don't have to be a graphic artist, but you just have to plan through things. If no one builds the system builds itself, and it will not build towards clarity. The goal is it will always lean more towards the chaos side of things. The one truth is we all want growth. You got into ministry to help make disciples. And it's not about the numbers, it's about depth, more ministries, and caring for more people. But with that growth, whether it's numerically or it's through depth, it's that growth adds weight. And so that beautiful garden over to the right there, thank you AI generation, but that beautiful garden there can grow into chaos very quickly if the vines and things take over. So that weight requires support. So you can kind of think of a communication system as a lattice to help support that growth. It doesn't create the growth, but it prepares for it and it supports it. When a vine grows, there's some good verses about that in the Bible. When a vine grows, it spreads, it gets heavier and pulls in different directions. Without the support of a system, it collapses under its own weight. With a lattice, that growth that you have, your communication strategy can help support the growth in a guided and sustainable way. It's one of those things. It's that communication system and the lattice it's not a flashy thing. It's faithful. It helps bring that clarity to the chaotic world of church communications. But yeah, it's also a fact here is too. I know I've gone through seasons in my life to where you're like, oh yeah, we just need the organic growth of things, and then you actually experience that, and you experience the weight of it. But this lattice, it doesn't replace the movement of God; it supports the weight of it. And supporting the movement. So again, a communication system will not create spiritual movement or momentum in your church, but it will protect it. And we're looking at building these systems in anticipation of growth and making disciples. But without the structure, I bet I know I've experienced it so the years, but we spend our time reacting, chasing requests. If you're the ones that's in charge of figuring out announcements or putting out fires when things go right. But with that structure, you have margin. And that's the goal. We want margin to shepherd, margin to disciple, margin to focus on what actually matters. Structure doesn't replace the movement. It protects leaders from distraction. So the big question here is, what does that actually look like? And so this is the goal. The goal here too is just to give you a basic broad strokes of how to create. Like it would take about 2 weeks to probably talk through all the details of how exactly to build a framework for communications specifically for your church. But these are some frameworks that I've found over the years that are helpful, and can give you a little bit of guidance to start thinking through this as a church staff or volunteer team. So the first one is a mission filter. So before you ask where something goes, we have to ask why it exists. Does it advance the mission? If it doesn't connect to mission, it shouldn't probably move forward. And once that's clear, then we decide who actually needs to hear it. Because that's the important part, where it's the simple side of our goal is to make disciples. So technically everything a church does could probably fit into a mission filter if you're good enough at making an argument for it. But once you know that specific mission for your church, if you have core values, if it's things that connect to it, those are some filters you can kind of put on it at first. But once you decide that, now it's trying to figure out who it goes to. So sometimes you've heard churchwide communication, so things that everyone needs to hear. I said earlier that attention is a limited resource, and every send to all. It's very easy to spread the information to everyone and click send to all, but that costs attention, and we only have a finite amount of that as stewards of the communications and attention to our church members and the community. And when everything goes to everyone, nothing stands out. That's one of those that, like, it's, if everything's important, nothing is at all. So the goal is to use church communications strategically when it connects to your mission. It impacts most of the church. We're talking like 80% or more is when you probably need to present something in front of the whole church. If it's an outreach event, things like that you want them, or if it's a required shared action. So say we're having VBS, everyone might not have a kid in the ministry, but if it's an outreach event that's connecting your church to be missional, then you might announce it to your church because you want them to invite the neighborhood and you want to invite their people. So yeah, and the thing about this is, the importance of why things might not need to go to a churchwide is, it's really about the volume of things. So I also was in another former life, I was a bass player that played in a lot of churches, and here the goal is every ministry matters, but not everything gets the same volume. So if you might have to ask a sound guy or a worship leader about this afterwards, but I promise it's true. So ask them what would happen if you put everything at the same volume. So we just turn those knobs and faders to where every instrument is the same exact volume. I could tell you nothing's going to be clear. And the goal there, so that's why each instrument matters. Each instrument matters, but there's a goal. If you notice, the vocals are actually prioritized because that's what gets the message out clearer. So here it's making sure we prioritize things to get that clarity. Communications works the same way as the sound mix. Every ministry matters, but not everything can have the same volume, or you won't be able to understand what's happening. So a few different ways to classify these. These are basically the buckets that the information that you're presenting to your church can go in. And this is where it gets into, it can be different for every church. Maybe you don't need all 4 of these. Maybe you need 5 or 6 different ones, but it's depending on how much you have to communicate and making sure those messages are connected to the path that they need to go down. So church-wide is the one we've already talked about. Then there's things like ministries. So if ministries can have different forms of communication to where they can send emails out separately, to where they can have printouts that just need to go to their people, or they can make announcements at kids' church, things like that. Things that don't necessarily, the whole church doesn't necessarily need to know, but it's helpful for that ministry to let their people know. And then after that, targeted is one way to say it. There's a lot of different ways. Sub-ministry would be another option, but the goal with that one is like, okay, everyone doesn't necessarily, even in that ministry, need to know. It's more specific asks. So if we're trying to find someone to volunteers to grill for a men's event, you can reach out to specific people. And then internal is just for that's staff and your high-level volunteers. So those are things to where you're just basically going to send a basic email that it doesn't need to go out to anyone else. And then, but the big part here is not everything belongs in the same lane as the others. So it's if you categorize those, and then with each channel that you communicate. So that's the social media, email, Sunday morning announcements. That's where it starts to be, you can build within those buckets of churchwide gets A, B, and C, which could be 2 to 3 weeks of announcements on Sunday, email blast specifically listed on the events listed on the website. And you can go through and do the same things with the other buckets. Again, I know this is a lot to kind of cover through at first. So after this, everyone who registered for the event will receive it's a packet of different resources that you can use. So it'll have examples that other churches have used to create those buckets and which deliverables and materials you get with it. But yeah, we talked about channels. So every channel should have a job. If you can't define what that job is, then sorry, bad news, you're using it reactively. And that kind of goes with just knowing why you're communicating and who it is. So what's the goal of social media? That's one to where it's easy to just broadcast out everything that you want people to see. But the beautiful thing about social is you have the opportunity to be social. So you can actually have a two-way conversation with people, which is awesome. So that's where you're sharing general awareness to where you want people to know about an event. But it's a great opportunity to, if you've been on Facebook or Instagram lately, it's a great opportunity to shine some light in a dark place. I think that's a goal that churches can have in the social media side of things. But yeah, it's just knowing what your Sunday morning announcements do. Is that an announcement that's connected to a story of life change that will help people connect to it with hearing it on Sunday morning? Bulletin bloat of what's the goal? Does everything need to be in the bulletin all at the same time, and for how long? So just defining what the roles are and how to effectively use it. And with part of that, it's building a weekly rhythm. It could be, you could zoom out and make it a monthly or quarterly rhythm too, but just it's that clarity thrives on rhythm. So it's finding the pace that works for your church and for your role. You don't need to do everything all at the same time. You're not going to fix things immediately. It's just finding the small wins and pace that work for you. To where if you can post on social media once or twice a week consistently, awesome. If you can create an email that goes out once a week, awesome. Do that. If it's once a month and that fits in within your bandwidth, awesome. That's cool. But it helps your church know, oh, we always get this at Tuesday at 12:05. I know to check for that email so I can find out how to do things and how to connect with the church. Or on the admin side, it's setting, oh, we review requests on Wednesday. So having a place for them to actually submit requests and things, which we'll get into in a few minutes. But we have to build a workflow and a process to where people know how to submit requests. Because if we're going to be telling them no, then they need to know a reason and have a side a side option of what to do. Like for instance, the person that came up to the pastor on Sunday morning, that's like a much better answer in that, instead of the, oh, I'm sorry, we can't do that, or absolutely, and then you end up with a 15-minute announcement time during your service. Is, oh, awesome. No, yeah, we have a communications request process. Just go to firstchurch.org/request. Or if you have a paper form, whatever it is to fill out, just people know where to actually go to get those requests. Because when you have that rhythm, the decisions are clearer, requests are clearer, and expectations are known. So they know what to do. The rhythm replaces the urgency with order. And so with that workflow, ministry leaders have amazing ideas for things to do. And we have a lot of activities at church that need to be processed and announced. But to kind of take away that chaos that we talked about, it's building a structure that protects that protects the leaders from reactive decisions. Because no one wants to be the bad guy that says no. The cool thing is you can make the process that filter and the guardian of that, which is why as you're creating these workflows and discussing it, it's great to do that like as unsiloed as possible. So invite people into the conversation so that after you leave the room and you agree that this is how we're going to do it, that's how we're going to do it. We've all left knowing what the process is, and it's written down. But yeah, an example of this workflow would be, ooh, I have an idea for this event. I'd like to do it. So I'm going to go to this submission form that we have, or even if now it's just, hey, we go talk to Justin, and that's who I submit this idea to. As long as it's being taken into the funnel of your workflow, then that's all you need. But yeah, so after the idea, you submit the idea, and then hopefully if you've created that process of like, hey, oh, what counts as churchwide communication, what counts as ministry level, that's where you go through and classify it into that bucket. And then from there, you schedule that content ahead of time so you don't have to think about it last minute. Anything that you can automate, do it. It's great. And then it's the execution of things. So actually getting it done, whether it's making the announcement, having the event, connecting with your community. And then the final step, which this is one of the most important, it's actually reviewing what happened. So you want to go through and you want to have it to where it's great that it happened, and things can feel like in the moment, oh, it was really great, or oh, this is horrible. But actually, if you can actually do a post-mortem almost of the event and announcements of like, oh, cool, how can we do this better? And also gives you a time to celebrate wins as a team. So we won't go through all the resources here on time of there's different tools that connect with the different workflow pieces here, but one of the most important is building that intake form. So having a simple communications request form, whether it's digital or print, to give them one place and one path to make requests, which will hopefully cut down the hallway request or the drive-by conversations that say, hey, can we do this? Awesome, yeah, go fill out this form, and then we'll review it. And then having a time to review it. Weekly is great if you can get enough time ahead of it. You might have to do it a little bit more often as you're trying to transition into this pattern if people aren't used to it. But the goal here is to avoid the daily chaos and bring weekly clarity. And one reason why I'm not going to go into a bunch of tools right now is because I love, you can ask my wife, I love gadgets and all the fun, digital new things, and finding the greatest, software and tools for whatever solution that I need. And that's awesome, but that has to come after building the structure and the strategy. You build the structure first, and then find the tools, like PowerChurch software or Empower software, to partner with you to solve the problems that are needed in that structure and strategy that you've built. So for better or for worse, tools will amplify whatever system or lack of system you already have. If your system's chaotic, your tools will just make it louder. It won't bring the clarity. So your only homework here is really going to be, hey, don't try to fix it all right now. Take small steps that you can maintain and grow. So audit what you're doing. Take a look at what you're already doing. This is a great time to get in a room with ministry leaders and say, hey, how are y'all communicating? Because I'm sure you're going to be surprised of how many emails or text or print pieces go out that you might not be aware of. So that's cool to go ahead and just make a list of the channels and ways that you're already communicating as a church. Then figure out what's church-wide for your organization. What does that mean? It's going to mean different things for different churches. And then build your intake process. Start having that full system flow into things. Because the goal here is building a system for your mission, because your mission deserves a system. Awesome. We're going to have, like I said, we'll send a packet of resources and resources that you can use from a bunch of different churches that I found. And we'll have a time of Q&A after this, but we want to give you some actual practical advice on how to use this with the systems you're already using. So PowerChurch software and Empower. But we want to give you the chance to learn that. And that's why we have the amazing Thomas, who will give you some examples of how to use that. And then we'll come back after this for a Q&A.
Hi, everybody. This is Thomas from PowerChurch Tech Support. You may have spoken to me on the phone. I'm here to talk about a couple of the practical things that go into mostly the end part of what he's talking about. Once you've got it all set up and done your homework, what you'll actually be doing in Empower or in PowerChurch to send out messages to these groups of people that you've defined. I need to bring a set of slides on screen. That should be easy, right? Take control. I just got a little built-in microphone. I can speak a little bit harder. All right, let's see. There. All right. Let's take it. All right. So the things you can actually do as far as contacting people in Empower and in PowerChurch are basically four main things. One is sending out bulk emails, like sending out mass emails to people who are, in your system, however they are, to everybody or to a more focused group. And you can also do that through, you can send text messages through either program, print out mailing labels for doing physical mailings, or just run off a report for someone to use like as a call sheet or a roster. That text messaging in particular is something that requires a little bit of setup and costs money. That Empower in particular, it's around 3 cents a text message after the first 100. And Simple Texting is a commercial company that has a big variety of different plans for sending bulk texts to folks. PowerChurch, also PowerChurch Plus in particular, synchronizes with Constant Contact, one of the big bulk email companies. The way that works, if you're using PowerChurch in particular, if you're doing the Constant Contact thing or Simple Texting, the way it works is PowerChurch like ships that company a list of names, just like over the internet, we talk right to them, send them a list of names that are, people in a particular activity, for example, and then you can send through their commercial service. Both PowerChurch and Empower, you send email right there from in the program, and it sends it using your existing church email address. So these are all different things you can do. I'm not going to go too far into the nuts and bolts of how to do them, but every one of these things is an easy tech support call. That if you give us a call, we can walk you right through doing it. And so I want to emphasize here, any contact method you have, you want to contact people by email, you want to do the text messaging, any group of people can be contacted with any contact method. And so if you've got an activity full of people set up in PowerChurch, you can send them a text, you can print out labels, you can print out a roster of those people. All that stuff works correctly. And so, yeah, that's the main thing is once you've got PowerChurch email set up, you can use it to send to any group of people that PowerChurch knows about, people who are all of your members, all your visitors, people who donated to your capital campaign last year, people who are members of the Bible study group. Any of the different tools we have can be used to send to any of those different groups of people. Things you actually need to do. I know we're just assigning lots and lots of homework here. That's just how it is, I'm afraid. One thing is getting PowerChurch or Empower set up to send email or to send text messages at all. So that's a tech support call, but it's always a quick one. It's always, someone calls and says, hey, I need to send out my contribution statements by email. I need to email this report out to folks. And it's their first time doing it. All we need to get that set up is your email address and your password that you would use to log into that email address. I mean, don't tell it to us. We have you type it in. But we would need like a church email address, like a Gmail or an Outlook account or any email address you use and have the password for. We can convince PowerChurch or Empower to send email through that address to any of your people. And so that's one, like I said, quick tech support call. You say, hey, I've got this Gmail account. I want to send emails out through PowerChurch or Empower, send my newsletter through it. Very easy, quick setup. Unless you're an IT guy yourself, it's definitely a tech support call. Let's see, make sure everyone has a correct personal status. I often refer to this as the single most important thing in membership. Personal status is that setting, like who is this person to the church? It's the same in both programs. Just if you're a member, your personal status should be member. If you're a visitor, your personal status should be visitor. Just like a basic answer to who is this person to the church, like the great big bin. And that is especially important for those church-wide mailings, because you don't want to bother a bunch of former members and people who just showed up once. You want a good list of people who you know are active members or active attenders or both, that you can send church-wide messages to that group. Very important that everyone has the right personal status. And then almost everything else that we've talked about here, you'll be handling by setting up activities. That you just set up groups. You can put a name on the group, Bible study, second graders, guys who volunteered to grill, like any one of those things that you set it up as an activity, whether it's a big thing with 100 people in it or a small thing with just 3 folks who are getting emails about a planning. You set all that stuff up as a separate activity. You have your staff as an activity, your volunteers, any group of people you might want to email separately. If they don't have something else in common, put them in an activity. Right? And then here is, and don't worry, we're going to be providing this slide. This is where you go to actually do the thing. And everything on here is also something we can and will help with in tech support. But I just want to talk a little bit about nuts and bolts stuff, and I can show this off in these programs in just a moment as well. So if you're in the web-based Empower, you can navigate to whatever area of the program you're in. If you want to send to people with a particular personal status, like to members for a church-wide email, you'd start by going to people. If you wanted to send to a particular group of people in an activity, you'd go to activities. If you wanted to send, like that example where you want to send to people who donated to your capital campaign last year, you'd go to donors. And all of those have the same little option, a little menu at the top says more. I'm pointing at nothing, obviously. Little menu at the top that says more. And it gives you this menu here that we see where it's like mass email, mass text message, and so on. That you go to that screen where you're looking at that list of people, and then you click the more button, and it gives you these options to contact people in these various ways. Likewise, there's also a couple of good reports. Like one of the most common things is just the low tech thing. You need a sheet of paper with people's names and phone numbers on it so you can make phone calls to people. There's a couple of reports in particular that are the right thing. There's a report just called Contact Information, which is just that, and one called Activity Roster, which is a list of the people in a particular activity. And also, I see someone asked about MailChimp. The answer with MailChimp is the same as the answer with any other service I'm not specifically mentioning. We don't talk with them directly, but we can export data in any format you want. So if you know like what kind of spreadsheet you want, what column should be in the spreadsheet, both in Empower and in PowerChurch, data export is something that we can help with. That we don't talk directly with them like we do with simple texting or constant contact, but like we're very good about being able to spit out an arbitrary spreadsheet of stuff that PowerChurch knows. Anyway, doing the equivalent stuff in PowerChurch, it's all from drop-down menus at the top. So you go into membership and then personal profiles, or membership and then activities, or contributions. And it'll be the same sort of thing. Some of your options there will be about different contact methods. Sending, if you go to contributions, you can send a message to selected donors. If you're in personal profiles, you can send it to people with a particular status. In activities, to people in a particular activity. And same thing, there's also a couple of good reports. That are just the exact right thing that I'm going to show you in just a moment for getting call sheets equivalent to all this stuff. PowerChurch also talks nicely with constant contact. Just the email part, we ship names of people and email addresses up there, and then you can use those as contact lists in constant contact. But if you're with any other service, almost certainly you can do the same thing. There's just going to be a spreadsheet in between where PowerChurch talks to the spreadsheet talks to the other service, works the same way. And all of this stuff is stuff that we can help with in a much more hands-on way as PowerChurch tech support. All right, I'm going to stop in these little slides, and I'm going to show off just not in great detail, just where these menu options are that I'm talking about, so that you know what I'm talking about. I'm going to share my Empower. All right, so here we are. You all should now be able to see the home screen of my little test Empower setup that I have with a bunch of little fictional people down here that have birthdays and anniversaries coming up. If you go to membership at the top and then people, this is like your main list of people. You can bring up anybody here on the list on the left. This is the thing I'm talking about, personal status. You click on that little pencil there, you can choose what personal status this person has. Are they a member? Are they deceased? Are they a visitor? In this case, this person, a member. But no matter who you have up, you click on this more up at the top, and this gives you those menu options I was talking about. A mass email, if you're set up for texting, mass text messaging, mailing labels, and also creating a mail merge file. If you use Microsoft Word to do mail merge form letters, both of the programs also do that. And likewise, if you go to membership and then activities, you can do the same thing. So I'm going to bring up an activity singles here that has some people in it. And if I go to more and then I can mass email, I can do a mass email to the people in this particular activity. And it takes you right through that process, shows you a list of people, you type in the email address and so on. I want to emphasize again, this only works if you set it up first. So call us first and say, hey, I want to set up my Empower to send email. And once you've got it working, then you'll be able to actually do this stuff. But this is where the menu options are. And anyone can generate mailing labels. Likewise, you can do very similar stuff. If you go to donors, you can do mass email of donors as well, to everyone who pledged to a particular fund, pledged in a particular year, donated to a particular fund. Any list of people you can dream of pulling out, PowerChurch or Empower can do it. Give us a call if you're getting really specific, like, hey, I need a list of people who pledged to this fund and have this status and this other thing. Call us, we can help you hook it up. No trouble. Let's see. And reports. The other thing I want to show you before we leave Empower is reports. Just real quick, if you go to membership, membership and then reports over here. In the big list of reports, the two that I recommend most often for the stuff we're talking about are contact information. A report, you can filter it down to just by personal status, or you can just run the thing, and personal and contact information gives you just that, all of the different pieces of contact information you have for a person. You can show more or less, but like this is one of the most useful reports. It's just, give me a list of all the visitors, give me a list of all the whomever. And likewise, over down here in activities, there's a report in particular called activity roster, where you would set it up to, to run it for one particular activity. Like say I wanted to run that for that singles, and I'll just run report. Let me get out here now. All right, just run the report for activity number is 2013, and it gives us a very similar report, pretty much identical looking report, in fact, but it's filtered down to just the people who are members of that particular activity. All right, and so the other part of that is how this looks in PowerChurch. I'm going to log into the PowerChurch demo, which unfortunately has closed automatically on me. I'm just going to show you exactly where the same stuff is in PowerChurch, which is all remarkably similar and all stuff, again, that we can help with like absolutely top to bottom as part of tech support. While that's thinking, let's see if anyone's got any exciting questions. Right, there you go. Demo's fine now. All right, so I'm going to share it out. Here is PowerChurch. All right, and so the same stuff I'm talking about also lives here. So if you are going to look at someone's personal status, that's here in maintain personal profiles. You can bring out a list of people and choose among them, and their personal status is over here on the left. It's top center in Empower, it's over on the left part of maintain personal profiles here. It is very much the same thing. Everyone's got a personal status. It's the most important thing, making sure everyone's got one. Let's see. Likewise, activities. The place where you'll be going to do almost all that setup is maintain activities and skills. So you have membership, activities and skills, and then maintain activities and skills. This is just like activities in Empower. It shows you one activity at a time. You can choose who is a member of this activity, add people to activities, remove them. And there are fancy things you can do, like automatically adding all members to an activity, all that stuff. Once you've got that set up, the place where you go to actually do the contacting, you'd go to membership, personal profiles, and there's an option to send an email message to a group in there. And likewise, if you go to membership and then activities, there's an option to send an email message or a text message to people who are members of a particular activity. And in contributions, if you go to send an email message or a text or print mailing labels, it asks you, do you want to do it for everybody, for people who are late on their pledges, for people who donated to a particular fund? You know, you have all kinds of options to slice and dice. So again, whatever your dream list of mailing labels is, or your dream email list, we can help you cook that up at PowerChurch Tech Support. All right, that is it as far as the stuff. I definitely wanted to show you at least what I was talking about. I know none of this is enough to actually do this top to bottom on your own. Tech support can help. That's the 800 number. Let's see. Justin, mind if I do some Q&A while the Q&A?
Yeah, that'd be great. We've got a couple of questions here of the, is Empower separate from PowerChurch?
Yeah, basically is the answer. Let's start with the ones in the Q&A. I'll get to the ones in the chat in just a second. So Empower and PowerChurch are separate. If you're currently using PowerChurch, you can move all your data up to Empower, but they're basically two programs that do the same thing. PowerChurch is the old one that's been around for a long time, works like you're used to, installed right on your computer. Empower is also a church management software made by the same people, does the same thing, but you access it through your web browser. Works better on your phone, for example. Right now, some people are using both. Empower doesn't have accounting in it yet. And so if you need accounting and you like Empower, you use Empower for everything but accounting, and then you use PowerChurch for the accounting parts with the debits and credits. But they are basically separate. Let's see, question. If we have an old version of PowerChurch on a CD, are the files easily transferred to the web application? Yes, easily transferred either to Empower or to the PowerChurch Online, where it's the same PowerChurch but like streams to you. That if you have any older version of PowerChurch, even ones way older than 14, we can bring that up pretty much seamlessly. Okay, let's see. And then we've got stuff in the Q&A. I'll go top to bottom on here. Let's see. Answered the MailChimp. Yep, I already showed off PowerChurch and Empower. Are the files easily transferable? Yes. I've had issues sending emails. If they come back with an error, there are a couple of errors that might be. It is most likely there's a step you got to do where you have to click an authorize button and prove to your email provider that you're you. If you call us and say, hey, I'm trying to send email and it always gives me this error, it says blah, 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 we will know that error message and how to fix it, pretty much guaranteed. That there are 2 or 3 things that could be, they're all fixable. Let's see. When you contact tech support, you only have an email. Yeah, so the phone number is 1-800-486-1800. It is the main number. I see Justin gave a different number there for the PowerChurch and Empower support. I think that works too. But the one that's on the business cards is the 486-1800. I'm pretty sure that's the one on the website too. The tech support does generally cost money. If you're with Empower, you're already on unlimited tech support. If you're on PowerChurch Online, you're already on unlimited tech support. If you're using PowerChurch Plus, it's you have to buy a support contractor or pay us by the call. Probably almost everybody talking to you is already paid up for unlimited support. Shakisha Watson, that PowerChurch Online doesn't have the communication part. It mostly does. Almost all the stuff works basically the same on both. Yes, there is indeed a plan to update Empower to have fund accounting. That is in the works. I've seen test versions of it. I can't make any promises on when, but the answer is yes. Once it's up and running, you'll be able to import your data in from PowerChurch. We're very focused on that. We've been around since 1984. And if you have the version of PowerChurch we issued on those big floppy diskettes in 1984, then you can upgrade that all the way up to the latest PowerChurch version 15 with just a very little bit of massaging. We take backwards compatibility real serious on this one. Yeah, you can, any older version, upgrade to any newer version. If there's anything unusual about it, it's something we can help with. Okay, generate a report. Okay, let's see. How do I download an Excel file that is not formatted? Mine come up in formatted spreadsheets, and I also have to clean them up. That's where you'd probably be looking for a data export. My usual advice about exporting reports to spreadsheets goes like this. The more the report looks like a spreadsheet to begin with, the better spreadsheet it'll make when you export it. If you want something that is not spreadsheety already, in spreadsheet format, your best bet's usually a data export, where almost anything we can pull out with a formatted report, we can just dump right into a spreadsheet for your convenience. That's a tech support call, but for what it's worth, it's up in Empower under there's a data export section in PowerChurch. It's under various, like you go to contributions and then other output. The right answer for getting an unformatted Excel is skip the report part, go right to a data export. Let's see. You're looking for, okay, someone is looking for Stan, hello. A report equivalent to the PowerChurch envelope numbers list in Empower. I don't know that off the top of my head by name, but I'm confident I can dig one up shortly. The answer is be under contributions and then reports. Yeah, the report's called donor ID in Empower. That you'd run. No, is that one right? We want giving units. Well, donor IDs is certainly one good one. And there's various other ones that, let's see, we could do selected contributors and not have it include from anything other than that other. Yeah, there's a variety of ways to do it. Start with donor IDs. If that's not just what you want, give us a call back or just click around in the various donors reports. There's certainly a way to do just that exact thing. I just don't have it right on the tip of my tongue. Let's see, I'm running out of questions. Does anyone else have any other questions? Dustin, do you have any other questions that you've heard from people you want to answer?
Yeah, I think one that we might be able to go into a little bit more is what's the difference between PowerChurch Online and Empower. I know you might be able to give a little bit more in-depth answer, but I know for me, what I've experienced is PowerChurch Online. If you're on PowerChurch Plus or any of the options that are the desktop based, it's essentially just an online version to where you're able to access. That's hosted by us. So we handle that admin side of things. Empower is the newer online browser based option that you can go on. It has a couple, like Thomas said, it has a couple different ways we do the communications things to where you can build drag and drop emails within the actual software and send those out without moving.
The short answer is PowerChurch. Both PowerChurch Plus and PowerChurch Online are the program that looks like this, where you've got the file edit membership at the top. Empower it's a program installed on your computer, whether you're online or not. It's an icon on your desktop. Whereas Empower is a website you go to. It's the one with the bright candy-colored blocks that we were looking at before. Fully web-based. It's the one with the drag and drop email creation. It's got some different, very cool newsletter creation features that PowerChurch doesn't have. But they're both church management software with the same set of features.
Yeah, and the cost for Empower is $47 a month or $4.99 a year if you like that. So they're both comparable in pricing. And for Empower, you can add on the PowerChurch accounting. So if you're like the familiar accounting software that you're used to, it'll automatically integrate.
I got a question here from Tim Ralph. The include in bulk emails checkbox. what that does, it affects specifically the things where you're going to membership and then personal profiles or contributions, and you tell it to send email message to a group. If that box is not checked under that email address, that email would not be included in that bulk email sending, even if it otherwise would be. It's separate from the unlisted. The unlisted has to do exclusively with whether it appears on certain reports, most of which will ask you whether you want to include or not include unlisted contact information. And then there's a separate checkbox for whether it's to be printed on the church directory, I think. Oh, and or for statements. That's independent. Yeah, that particular one is just send email message to them.
Awesome. We'll do a last call on questions. It could be anywhere from just general church communications questions to things you've been wondering about. Anything that might have been confusing that I said that you need to have clarified. But we'll give kind of a last call, wait a few seconds. And
yeah, anything I said too fast. You want me to say again, much slower.
Awesome. And again, we're available at any time through the website, or you could call support or send an email for it. Yeah, I just want to thank you for spending the time. But yeah, so yeah, take the let's answer the one question. So Empower does not
Yes, yeah, the
have
answer
the
is yes
accounting
to that
piece
one.
yet.
Yeah, Empower does not presently have accounting, but if you need and if you want Empower and need accounting, we have a package where we'll sell you Empower like normal and hook it up to just the accounting parts of PowerChurch Online. That's a temporary like the last few years type solution. Once Empower has real accounting, we'll move everyone up to that. But right now, you can, yeah, Empower doesn't have accounting itself, but it talks with an accounting software.
Yeah, it's an additional $12 per month if you want to add PowerChurch accounting onto Empower.
A support for setting up the accounting side of PowerChurch. That's the same answer. That's our regular tech support. One of my most common tech support calls is someone says, "Hey, I want to start doing the accounting for the first time," or "I'm taking over for someone who is doing a bad job and I need to start over the accounting." Usually, that's another one. We assign you homework. We will tell you to gather a set of book balances and outstanding checks as of a particular date, a collection of all the liabilities you owe, the balance of anything like a building fund or a mission fund that people donate to, and then you punch that stuff into PowerChurch and it does most of the hard work for you. I just breezed past it. That thing I just said is usually a 5 or 10 minute tech support call where we tell you exactly what information you need to gather. And then it's another maybe half hour to an hour call where we actually do the process of setting up your accounting and getting you to the point where you're putting in your checks for January. So here, us, is where you get support. Compatible with iPhone, iPad. With Empower, that is an unqualified yes. Works great, totally awesome. With PowerChurch, PowerChurch Plus is just for Windows. But if you're on PowerChurch Online, like if the PowerChurch you're getting into right now has that green and white globe icon, you're on PowerChurch Online, you can install it on an iPad. My usual advice is that it's a little bit fiddly to use it with your fingertip, like get a Bluetooth mouse to plug in. But PowerChurch Online will work on an iPad. It'll also work on an iPhone, but that sounds very annoying to use, and I wouldn't really recommend it, but it does work quite well on an iPad. Tim Ralph, sending tax receipts by email, you want to do that kind of operation in bulk. There's not a built-in way to do that, but if you were on the phone with me right now for tech support, I would say, let me just do that for you in your database and blank all those out for you or fill all those in for you or whatever it is you want to do. I know I'm buying myself trouble, but it's Tim in particular, call, ask for me. My name's Thomas. I'll do that exact thing. Church budget, Terry Hoffman, hello. Church budget, yes. That's if you're doing the accounting parts of PowerChurch, budgeting is part of that. Yep. And you can compare your actuals to budget, see how you're doing. It's all, yeah, budgets, yes. Yep, yeah, if you're currently just doing the contributions, that means you also have at least a basic list of members. If you wanted to start using accounting in PowerChurch, it doesn't cost anything extra. You're already paying for it. It's just a question of having someone who's willing to like really do that work, because it is, doing the books for the organization, entering every check, paying attention to all the balances and interest and stuff. But it's really the same question as Joy was asking earlier about getting support for setting up the accounting part. Call us. We'll talk to you for 5 minutes about homework. Then call us back when you've done your homework, and we'll talk to you for half an hour about actually getting it set up. Um, it's a fair amount of clicking and typing, but nothing's very hard. Chuck, saving reports on a MacBook, that should work fine. Call us and we'll figure out what's going wrong, but there's nothing that could be going wrong that will stop us from solving that one. I'm pretty sure we can make that work. And also, would it be able to take the place of QuickBooks? Basically, yes. I mean, the accounting parts of PowerChurch, I would say, are a direct competitor to QuickBooks. We don't talk directly to your bank in the same way they do, and there's lots of things we do differently than they do, but fundamentally, yeah, we're talking about like bookkeeping software, so same sort of thing.
Yeah, bookkeeping, payroll. It's kind of you can run your entire church.
Yep. Oh, and your question, can you print checks? The answer is yes, but I have a warning that I give to people switching from QuickBooks is QuickBooks checks, I think, go check, check, check on one piece of paper. PowerChurch doesn't print on those. They need to be the ones where it's one check per page, where it goes check stub stub or stub check stub. So you can print checks, but you'll probably need to buy new check stock if you're on QuickBooks check.
Well, awesome. Well, yeah, thank you all for hanging out with us for the past hour. I hope you got some helpful information for it, or at least started getting some questions that you can work through as a team to get answers. Again, we'll send out a full little kit of information with this, including all the slides and tools that we mentioned throughout here, with some good little work kit for y'all to process for homework. But yeah, again, yeah, thank you. Yeah, if you're on version 15 is out for PowerChurch Plus users. So if you're using an older version, go ahead and go to the website and upgrade to the newest so you can have all the new features. And yeah, any questions you have, feel free to reach out through support or through our website. Yeah, you'll have a great day.
All right, cheers. Pamela, we can help you with attendance. Give us a call.